There we go. Okay, so we're here today to talk about Zen Games, which are most people when they think about games, they think about things that pump you up and get you moving and get you excited and so on. But there's a bunch of games out there that are designed to do exactly the opposite, and they're designed just to let you relax, let you enjoy yourself, and so on. So we have a smattering today of games we're just going to show you, and then if we have a little bit of time left, we can maybe talk about them. But we have a couple on the iPad. I have one that's on runs on either PC or Macintosh. Um, a biometric feedback device attached to your hands, and it actually records your heartbeat and so on. And then we'll finish up. I originally thought about bringing in my PS3 and actually showing you a game on there named Flower. But I'm just going to show you a video of it because it's just as effective and got enough stuff hooked up to it. So, without further ado, we're going to start. I'm going to talk about first on the iPad here. Below our lovely setup here, hopefully you can see the ingenious setup we came up with here. And this is a game on the iPad. It's called Bloom, and it's really designed as you can either listen to things other people have created or are creating, or you can create your own stuff. So it might be a little bit hard to hear because I'm using the audio off the iPad itself. But basically, you just touch the screen. You can see it's low tones over here, high tones over here, and then you can kind of drift in and out. Also, some things here you can create your own compositions. You kind of get the idea. It's very peaceful, very soothing, very relaxing. Really no goal of the game here. It's stated. Just play as long as you want. And you can also, I'll go back here, you can also listen to things other people. So that, in a nutshell, is Bloom. And there's a variety of games that are out there that are similar to it, where you are participating. They call them games. You could argue if it's a game or not, but it's a very relaxing experience for you. Minimal input. You're supposed to walk away from something like this. Your blood pressure low is not right. So that's Bloom. And then I've asked Brad Kozlik to show Osmos, which is also on. So I'm going to stop mine. Osmos here. Brad, you want to talk about Osmos?
Yeah. Well, can I have a seat here?
Yeah, you can. I'll switch with you.
Yeah, and get my hands on this. So, Osmos, if you can hear the music again, it's another one of these ideas where it's a game that it tries to be relaxing to a certain point. It requires more patience than actually, uh, patience to get to a win state as opposed to, you know, action, exactly. So here's a level. Okay, so I see Brett's on this level. This is hard to see on the connect piece, but I don't know if that helps. But in essence, what we have here is this little ball is in essence my life form. And right now in this level, it's rotating around the sun. And pinch to come out. Actually, no one here can actually. The
More light or less light?
so, so let me start. This says here the wise player taps less often. Here's the basic idea. You're a giant, you're this ball, and there's other floating things around here. Anything that's smaller than you can absorb. So as you see, this one here is heading toward me. Once it gets there, it gets sucked into my ball, makes my creature bigger. I can zoom out here, and there you can see, but there's tons of little dots. By tapping in here. So if I tap on the screen, a little bit of my mass is ejected in that direction. So the idea is to move through the board, collide with things smaller than you. Don't collide with things bigger because then it'll absorb you, and then you'll be on. But if you tap more of your mass is ejected, and you become smaller. So the idea is to tap as little as you can as often and just wait. So you can see I'm on a course to get this guy, hit him. There, he's kind of, I've absorbed his mass, and now I'm larger. And so now some of these, now I can absorb more of these little molecules. So there's elements here dealing with action. And overall, everything though is like patience. You can even slide down here.
Like you said, the idea is to wait rather than to reach.
Yeah.
That kind of relaxes.
Yep, exactly. Only two-dimensional. Only two-dimensional. Swap out my iPad here. So I have some more. Some more levels here. So here is a good example talking about some of the elements here. In this one, you have a sun in the center. You're rotating around it, and there's another body here, so it's dark to see. Another, there's a red body also sun. So the idea is, you have to become the biggest, but it's kind of impossible to do because there's only one body and that's bigger than you, so you can't actually absorb anything from it. So the main idea is, how can you adjust the way these momentums are going to actually force that red body to actually crash into the sun. So you can see, there's actually a blue line around here showing the orbit, and as I tap in, so if I increase speed here, it kind of makes the orbit come out wider on the opposite side. Or I could also slow down on this side. I've slowed down too much, and now I'm on a collision course with the sun. There we go. Again, I sped up on this side, so the orbit came wider on this side. And the main idea to win this is, and again, it takes a lot of patience, the idea that you can make your orbit come so close to this red creature's orbit, but you don't completely collide with it, but you actually give him some of your mass. He'll become heavier, and then he'll actually end up running into the sun and melting away. So each level, there's many levels. Each kind of have their own trick with these different kind of rules of the physics of the game.
Kepler's law.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, yes, because they have a whole section built around these orbits. You can also, and especially used from the orbit one, you can actually slide with your finger down here, and you can hear the sound pitch change. Like, you can actually make it go slower for doing really precise kind of stuff, or if you're waiting, because you have to wait for like 200 cycles for your little guys to actually line up. Slide the other way, spin it up, so you can have that leeway. So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, there's lots of levels. I could spend a long time going through. Each again they add their own tricks. Some of them deal with orbits. Some of them have bodies that actually repulse away from you. Some have other creatures that are given some artificial intelligence that are actually competing. So each level kind of has a different way you have to approach it, solve a puzzle.
I think one of the neat things about this, and it's hard for people on the phone to hear, so I'm going to hold it up as close as I can, is the music. It's very, very kind of surreal, laid-back music. Uh, Somebody was walking by here earlier today, and they said, "Why am I playing elevator music in the room?" So, but it's definitely part of the experience, I think. So that's Osmos, and then finally to round up our iPad stuff, Elizabeth Pyatt's going to show Shanghai.
So I don't know if Shanghai has been around for years. It's the one where you kind of find matching tiles and get rid of them. I'll see, and then you have to remove them pair by pair. I've removed a pair. Now, the reason I thought this was was one, there's no time limit. In fact, there's an undo for one play. So you can just sort of sit here and kind of take as long as you need it. But the other thing I found interesting about this particular version is you can start playing around with it. So you have all these different board layouts. And you can actually, I haven't quite figured out what the mechanisms is, but I think you can actually create your own and upload them with this company. And the other thing you do is in the settings, you can really there's a lot of control you can have. So you can control what background you have. And you can download more from the web, of course. And the one I kind of thought was interesting was the tile set art. So this is so cut out. This is the traditional Shanghai, and then there are lots. I think it'll show up soon. So you can go pearl. You can go wild and crazy. Do this. Here's and I'm just gonna leave it like that. So I think what's interesting to me about this particular version of Shanghai is the element of design control the player has. And that reminds me of a talk about Second Life where someone pointed out that one of the larger activities in Second Life were people building little sanctuaries for themselves. So people would build tree houses or simulated churches, Buddhist shrines, mosques, or just little houses and things like that. I think if you were an art student, this would be really interesting.
Yeah, Elizabeth, it's interesting you mentioned Second Life. I had thought about showing that, but Second Life through Adobe Connect just doesn't work. It's too right. A lot of people will build these structures in the clouds, go into them, and it's very, very peaceful and relaxing. We have a guy that works here that he found this particular town that was set up to be park-like and very open and so on. He used to go there over lunch and just hang out there while I was eating food because he just did it so much. So.
Now we're up to crop circle art, which
Yeah.
is one of my
Yeah, it's probably
favorites.
I know it's a little hard to see through that camera.
All right, so that's Shanghai.
Cool, thank you. So, so those are simple games that are fairly easy to get into. There is some strategy in them. I mean, obviously in Shanghai there's some strategy, and in Osmos there is. The first one I shot was the Bloom. Not much strategy. They just go at it and have fun. But then we come, there's one I want to show you here, Journey to the Wild Divine. The game that's been around, it's been around about 6 years now or so. But the interesting thing about it is it uses a biometric feedback device that I'm going to show you here. You get this little doohickey that plugs into your computer. It has three little things that attach to your fingers. So it's actually tracking what you're doing, and you control parts of the game by either lowering or raising your heart rate and pulse and so on. So I'll show those. There's there when they're hooked on. So I'm going to switch over here and fire that up. The screen might go a little bit bonkers on me, folks. So patient here, because this does some resolution resetting and so on. So I'll fire it. I'm going to fire it up on my computer first, and then I will share the screen.
Right, quick question. It's
Sure.
not a Zen question, yet, but the iPad is not connect friendly.
We couldn't find an easy way to connect it so that we could display there. So we came up with this low-tech solution, which isn't great, obviously.
No, it works, but I just curious.
There are projector dongles, but they don't work with every application. If it's not working, you just see a black screen.
Play with it,
Yeah, I mean, that would be part of it. I mean, I think there'd be multiple layers. Like you can't view a Connect
Yeah.
or host one either.
Gotcha.
And you can't share the screen.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to share this now. So folks at the other end should be able to see this. If you're not, let us know, especially on the phone, just speak up, because it's hard for me to see when you're typing in chat and show you this. So I'm in a section, so when this started, let me give you a little bit of history. When this actually first came out, the only thing they had with this was this game named the Divine. And it's kind of set up in these high Himalayan-like mountains, like retreat, monastery, whatever you want to call it. And you basically go around and talk to different mentors who will appear on screen, and they'll guide you to do different tasks and so on. And a lot of the tasks involve either raising your blood pressure or lowering your blood pressure. Since they came out with this, they've also come out with something called a program called Healing Rhythms, which uses the same biometric feedback device, but it's not a game. It's just a series of like 16 modules you go through. The first one teaches you how to breathe, for yoga, like breathing. And I've been through that a couple of things, and that's interesting. I was really, really good at this about 3 years ago. I could do everything. But I found out not only A, does it work, but B, you've got to do it regularly. You lose it after a while. So I can do the stuff where I can raise my heart rate and everything really easy. I'll show you in a second. Lowering it, I can't really do unless I do things like turn down the lights and close my eyes, and that would be rude. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm in one. This is one of the very first areas of the game where you go in and they're showing you this wheel. And you click on it and zoom in there.
To turn the pinwheel, inhale, fill your lungs, and with the power of your breath, you've activated those magic rings on your fingers.
I get the idea. I'm not touching anything here. I'm just doing the inflation process. Checking that my pulse is increasing. So on. A little bit of delay before it kicks. So that's one. So let's see what happens. So Ken, you kind of get the idea that there's this peaceful music in the background. A lot of times you're guided from one spot to another. Later on in the game, you have full, you decide exactly where you're going to go. But for right now, it's a very early stage, kind of being guided.
Okay, this is the art of energy juggling. Armand knows how to juggle energy spheres. Keep your energy up, that's right. Now stay focused. Now, you try. Wave your wand and click.
And this is a variation on the penguin.
Now, to move the spheres, you want to amplify your energy. You can do that in several ways. Breathe vigorously, laugh, shout. Imagine a time when you were bursting with energy. Now put those thoughts and feelings into keeping those spheres in the air.
Take a little bit because I'm presenting. Let's finish here. That part for me is easy. I think it's interesting.
Are you ready to
on
explore
the
something
boards.
else?
There's some people
Well,
who
let's
have
go
a hard
find a
time doing
customer.
that, but yet can relax very quickly. But I'd say the majority of people, here you get yourself roused. Later on, you'll see the middle bottom of the interface, it's kind of like a spiral. I kind of think it's like fine tuning. What I'm doing right now is loose adjustments by breathing and so on. Later on, they keep fine tuning. The object is to get the pointer moving towards the middle of the spot. A lot more control than what I or even something I probably is just it's almost as individualistic. Then there's another one that I've never done before. One exercise supposed to have a partner hold their hand. How this device is picking up that information. So this is a really cool game. Know that got some of these up there. Basements here in the hospital. Pretty sure there's still one or two of that up. If you ever want to try this out, you can always come to me. If you're up the house, you know, stay. Unhook them and watch it happen. No, it actually will calibrate every time. Does that make sense? Yes, in the Healing Rhythms one I talked about, the thing in the somatic game, you can actually record yourself over a 10-minute, 20-minute period, and then you can compare your graphs and everything. We have a couple more people that joined us.
What was that game called?
The game itself is called Journey to the Wild Divine. And if you just type that in and look it up, there's nothing, you'll find the site immediately. Now, it's not cheap. It's about $150 for this and neat. And one thing I've been interested to see is if anybody would ever have taken this device and used it for some other game or something like that. And I don't know whether they don't want you to do that or people just haven't done it, but I'm not places. Really, really a cool thing to do. I would think it was about 3.5 years ago. I was doing it like over lunch on a regular basis, and I really got to the point where there's things where you have to aim arrows depending on how you have to adjust your levels. Fire, and it was great. I was doing everything. I was like, cool. But then I stopped and I thought, oh, I can pick it back up. So last week I did it. I can't do anything, man. I lost it all. So very cool, very zen. There's really no hostile things that happen. And you meet these gurus along the way. They have a second game out now that I have. It was use your journey. So, kind of tree huggy in a way, but it's kind of cool. That's Journey to the Wild World. And Martella, did you hear Journey to the Wild Divine is the name of it. So if you look that up on the web, it'll take you right to their site. And then the last thing that I really wanted to show today, and then, well, this is great because we'll have some time for some good discussion, is I want to show you Flower, which is a game that came out less than a year ago, I think, on the PS3. And I was going to bring a PS3 in and show it to you, but with everything else I've got hooked up to it, I figured enough's enough. I'm going to show you a YouTube. And for those of you that might have trouble with the URL for it, but really, if you go in and if you go to YouTube and just type in Flower PS3, it'll Flower PS3 gameplay. Take that and you'll find it. So I'll turn the volume up on it. So Flower is a game where you actually start out in this. You're in an apartment and you have these flowers that are on the windowsill, and each flower takes you into a new world. Gives you the dark and gray. It's very dark on my screen. Outlines a bit. Now entered into one of these worlds. You start out as a single flower pack. And the neat thing about this is, unlike you're not pushing buttons or anything, you're just moving the controller around from side to side. You're not really pushing any buttons or anything with this. You're tilting the controller to move forward. The idea here is every time you come across a flower, you pick up a few.
You can go pretty much any which direction you want.
You go anywhere you want. Yeah, there is an end state to each world, which basically when you collect on flower petals, a vortex appears to fly into it. How I would describe it. The music is really, really nice, and you're interacting with the music because it's the flower petals. Tones will, every time you pick up a petal, a tone will happen, and it always seems to fit with the music. Yeah. By just tilting your controller backwards and forward, yeah. Go very slow, you can pause and come to the height as well. You can go way up in the air, back down, yep. And you can do that a little, staying pretty close to the ground. But yeah, you can go way up in the air and you can like look around and kind of, if you wanted to strategize, oh, there's a patch of flowers over there.
Oh.
So every time you come into the game, you can group.
Good. Yep. Like 6 or 7 flowers, and like this one is First one is very peaceful. There's one where you're actually in a storm. It's occurring. A little spooky, a little scary. The end flower, the last flower you go through, you actually transform the city from that really dark and dreary place into this white buildings. But it's just really joyous. It's $10. So if you have PS3, it's $10. No, it's single player.
Do you know this game was invented in the US or is it
This was
adapted from
invented.
Japanese?
This was invented by some Indian. Had those guys from Riot Games. They know this company. One of the guys that developed this. They never followed up with them.
So what was that, Flash?
That's what happens is if you find sometimes you find certain areas, you'll transform the area, and it also sometimes they'll spawn additional flowers.
Is this available in any other game?
I am not aware of it being available on anything other than the PS3 and downloadable game, which means you have to you have to purchase it through a credit card online, and that's one of the things I ran into. Is like, oh, I'll just use our PS here, and it's like, no, there's no PS3. Like, you guys are getting the idea. Hoping he would go to a different world here. See how he's interacting with me. That's this is kind of hanging with that area right there. I'm guessing the game takes about 4 hours to play. Right? Um, within a world of time. When you're done with the world, you go back to that and you see it. You can move pretty fast if you want. interest of time. That gives you an idea about flour. The other one that I didn't really put on the agenda, but since we have a little bit of time, I will show it to you. Give me a chance to. Ooh. There's a type of game out there that they call like the hidden object games. Basically, you go from scene to scene, and there's objects you have to find in each scene to get to the next scene. I have to show you. I'm going to go into this game, and if you guys are on the far end, shout if you're not seeing it. So the basic point of this game is you're at home, your wife and kids are at the museum. Earthquake, you have to get to them. Basically trying to get across town, a town that's been devastated. So each scene, you have to kind of move your cursor around. The door's blocked. Get through there. So I've got to figure out in this case, how do I move that washing machine? So a couple places I could look, and every time I move my cursor, find an area where I found some great spot to put a rope or something, so cover the washing machine out of the way. But to show you what the hidden object part of it is, here, wow, there's a motor in here. So here I am. There's a whole bunch of junk here. I mean, these people are all. But over on my right, I have my list of things I need to find. Stamper, I need to find some coins. Stamper, really Santa, but I have other things I like the American flag I've got to find. And sometimes they're easy to find, sometimes they're not so easy to find. Let's see, a plug, a cheese, a trap, floppy disk. Floppy disk, that was a scroll. So at least I found something.
The scissors.
Scissors. Here's the C cleanup. Anyone see this? Had a hard time with that one.
There's the plug. Probably to the right.
To the right of the, yeah. There you go.
So,
Looking for the floppy disk?
here's,
Here's the gavel.
so basically, you're going to become the diver.
Yeah,
and
pretty
make
much.
something out of
See,
it.
on the,
Oh yeah, it's down here on the
Oh, yeah.
bottom. Yep.
Bottom left.
Here's the flag too.
Oh, there's a little American flag.
Flag's in the, right there.
There we go. Now I have 2 coins now. You know, the resolution's a little bit here. And I have a pair of scissors. So I'm in a laundromat. What do you think of the coin? Or yeah, I got some soap. Yeah. Yeah. So let's try the soap. And just grease the plate. So if I put a rope over there. Anyway, I'm gonna spend time on this. You get the idea. Is this Zen? Yeah, I don't know. Might or might not be. think it can be Zen-like if you approach it with the idea that I'm just going here, I really don't have a time limit. I don't, yeah, I have a goal, but it's up to me to do what I want. I can just poke around and explore. It kind of reminds me of what I think is like the first Zen game that ever came out, which was Myst. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Myst, MYST, but it was very much like you had these three dimensional rendered images go from place to place on this mysterious island. It was very laid back. The music, but you had these puzzles to solve, and eventually find out why everyone disappeared on the island. Hidden ones are kind of like that as well. So, anyway, there's a bunch of games out there. I guess my question that I keep grappling with is, so where does that fit in terms of education? Where do Zen games fit? And I'm just curious I'll just throw that out there to all you folk and see what you think. I mean, is there a place for them? And if so, where would they fit in your discipline?
Well, one thought that occurs to me is the issue of a time limit, where there are some objectives where you want students to be able to come up with things really quick. So that, especially low-level memorization ones, but later on, kind of have to, there may be cases where you're giving them more complex puzzles and the answers aren't immediately obvious, so you have to kind of whack at it a few times.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, and there's obviously sort of relaxation that happens. That's why the health center has them, right?
Yeah.
So, and it also helps you unlearn what you get so used to when you play games like World of Warcraft. Just the thrill and the chase and the action. You learn to see the other side. You have to enjoy the other side. That's why you were playing these so much years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was really doing it in part because it was a game, but part was because I was having some blood pressure issues and so on.
Oh yeah, I would too. It doesn't have to learn. You don't have to really learn. Our students can benefit from it.
Yeah.
That's something learned by playing.
Yeah, definitely Osmos because you can see the trajectories of things and how they're traveling, and then you think, okay, I need to set up my sphere so it's at this certain place at this certain time. But then you're just kind of sitting back and kind of just chilling to the music and so on. Like Brad said, you can speed it up if you want to, but when I was playing, it was just kind of nice to just anticipate, sit there.
And like you're saying, they are governed by Newton's laws and the first Kepler's laws, which are actually in physics they're easy. The equations are simple, but they are difficult to visualize. Kepler's law, for example, if you can actually play with that, and expanding the orbit, things slow down, the fans speed up. That's I mean, just as a simulation,
Anyone else? Anyone on the far end want to share their thoughts?
Fred and Cheryl, I was just thinking that, we have a big nursing program here, and but even for students in other types of curriculum, psychology or biology or whatever, when they play, for instance, the one that's the divine one, and learning to control your breathing and your heart rate and so on, that while those students are playing the game, they're learning the techniques, and then they might be able to pass those on eventually to their patients. That they won't necessarily have to keep playing the game, but they know what to maybe imagine in their mind, or to how to control their breathing, their blood pressure, and so on, and to use it then in the real world.
Yeah, that's a good observation, and it is true. If you play that game fairly regularly for about a month or so, you start to realize you're much more aware of the current state your body is in. And you can say, "Hey, I'm stressed out," or whatever, and then you do the breathing techniques or whatever, and you can calm yourself down. And you know it's working because you've got enough feedback from the machine. At that point, you can couple yourself from the machine. So do it. That's a good point.
I could piggybacking on it being useful for students who get testing. Use it before.
Really good idea, yeah. Calm themselves down a little bit. Get the clear head, go into the Zen state, so to speak.
Or even public speaking in class, you know, like public speaking is like one of your greatest fears. That was, again, just the breathing exercises and knowing, you know, how you can, if you're agitated, how you can.
Yeah, just for kicks, then you could set up one of these consoles at the testing center outside, see how, how kids use it.
Like, yeah. Would they do it though?
Yeah,
I mean,
would they,
it'd be really cool. They probably, the first time they came for a test, they wouldn't know it existed. Next time, come back. Of course, you kind of need to do it. That's a problem. But we could, if there was room at the testing center, it'd be really neat to have a place they could come and do it, practice it for a while, or maybe the health center's not too.
Yeah.
I haven't put this in the lab yet. Simply because I've been waiting to see the new version and so on, but I think I might put it down there for one station at least. Try it. Okay, so the Educational Gaming Commons has a lab that opened up last fall. It's in Findlay 6A, so it's in East Hall. And if you haven't been down there, it's really a great place. If you'd like me to give you a tour of it, I'd be happy to give you a tour of it sometime. Let me know, we'll set a date. And so on. It's got 8 PCs, it's got an Xbox, a Wii, PlayStation 3, and lots of nice video display units. Great place to go if you want to do teaching, learning, or research. So students really like it. They're in their own time. So they were actually in there before classes started, which technically the lab was shut, but they were in there. So. Well, folks, it is about 4 of, but is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? That's a real brief overview. These games are out there. You just have to look for them sometimes. And I think sometimes the idea of a Zen game is in the mind of the beholder. Some of you might argue with me that Escape the Museum is not a Zen. For me, when I play it, I actually relax. Because I know I'm not like, oh, I'm under the gun, I've got to finish this. And it's like, I'm going to look around, I'm going to try to find everything. And if it takes me 20.
I think one thing that they're looking for Zen games, a lot of the music art games are sort of Zen-like. One our music instructor Ann Cummings has been working with is called Electroplank. And not only is that really Zen, but it also kind of shows you how music works because you can sort of manipulate different elements of it.
That's an extremely popular game because that's for the Nintendo DS, DSi, and it's freaking expensive. I mean,
Yeah,
and it's going up in price instead of down. You know, most games that come out, they start going down. That's why we probably should have maybe shown today, but next time.
Electroplankton are like these little, it's like they're little jellyfish or snowflakes or planktons, and they glow and they make different noises, and there are different exercises you can do with them.
One problem I sort of see here is that all of these involve staring at the screen. And sometimes I just want to get away from the relax. I see that sit there and watch, focus.
Can't help you with that one. I don't know.
I think
Get a
of
bigger
it,
monitor.
I guess it's like, if you're, the idea you're staring into a mandala. Some people find that relaxing. I personally find staring in weird.
Well, actually, the first one that you showed where you touch the iPad screen, the music, that one you can even close your eyes and just, relax and
Every once in a while,
just, you don't need to see it because because again, even when you're looking at it, the chimes that are coming out, they're kind of random as to where your hand is.
One
what's the name?
Bloom is the name of that. I think there's a version of it iPhone. You have to go onto the App Store.
Free?
I don't think Bloom was free. Osmos is
not free.
Shanghai, I think if there's a free version, but if you get the paid version for, I think it was no more than $5. That lets you download the ultimate art and backgrounds and layouts and things like that.
Yeah, none of those games on the iPad or the iPhone are expensive. And I think the most expensive one I've seen that we got was Civilization, and it was like $9 or $10 or something. Most of them are like between 99 cents and $5.
And a lot of them will have free versions. Sometimes that means they just stop playing after 2 levels, or sometimes it means you're on the iPhone and connected to the internet, you see a lot of ads. But at least they'll give you a chance to try it out and see if you want to pay a little bit more to get rid
Escape
of
the
it.
Museum that I showed you, that's $5. Big Fish Games. The most expensive thing I showed you was Journey of the Wild Divine, proprietary hardware. But other than that, it looks like we lost everyone on the other end. Thank you, folks. Thanks for coming. I do apologize. Well, Kevin, you're the only one left on the other end, but I do apologize for the voice issues. I don't know what's going on there. I'll have to figure that out. Everyone.